Welcome everybody to our information session about our engineering apprenticeship programme for the Woodsmith project. We're really excited to be recruiting another 10 apprentices to add to the 14 who started with us back in 2019, and all of them are doing really well. So tonight you're going to have a number of presentations. So we're going to start off with Gareth Williams, who's our Operational Readiness Director, who's going to talk a little bit about the project, the company and the sorts of roles that we will be preparing people for. That'll be followed by John Cook from TTE, who will talk about TTE, the qualifications that you'll achieve, and then you'll hear from two of our apprentices, Hayley and Owen, about their experience, and then finally Katie is going to talk about the recruitment process. Now, I've neglected to introduce myself, so my name's Matt Parsons. I'm External Affairs Manager for the project, and I've been involved for the last 10 years or so. And if anyone's got any questions, if you see towards the top of your screen, there's a question mark and it says show Q&A. You can write your questions there and then we'll come back at the end to answer those. So I'd like to hand over to Gareth. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt, and a warm welcome to everybody, and apologies that it's not face-to-face. As Matt said, my name's Gareth Williams. I'm the Operational Readiness Director here for the Woodsmith project, and my role is really to transition Woodsmith from a project to an operating mine. And hence my interest really is about making sure that I employ the right people and get the workforce of the future. And hence that's what really tonight is all about. It's about exciting you to come and join us and take crop nutrients, the Woodsmith project, forwards. Next. Oh, it's a bit slow. So just one slide about our holding company, Anglo American. Anglo American is 102 years old, proud mining company. With roots, as you can see on this map, really globally. We are listed both in United Kingdom and in Johannesburg, and we mine 6 commodities across the globe, and currently we've got 3 major projects on the go. One in Peru called Quellaveco, one in South Africa called Venetia, and our very own Woodsmith project here in the North York National Park. Next. I think the exciting thing that I'd like to explain to you about this slide is that we actually own the world's largest polyhalite resource. And what this slide is showing you in the red outline is the extent of how far that resource goes. In fact, it's almost 2.9 billion tons. And as you can see, it goes right out into the sea, throughout almost to Whitby and down as far as Scarborough. What this map also shows you is our geographical location of where we operate. We have our offices at the bottom and here in Scarborough, where I'm talking to you from tonight. We have our mine, which is just outside of Whitby, the Woodsmith mine. And then the dotted line is actually where our tunnel, our underground tunnel, will connect our mine to our port, which is up at the Wilton International site at Teesside. I think also what you can see on this slide here is the extent of the North York Moors National Park and exactly where we are. And so there's a lot of permitting constraints that we obviously adhere to, and we have to make sure that we comply with all of the legislation required to operate in such a pristine environment. Next slide, please. So what is it that we're actually producing? As I mentioned earlier, I spoke about polyhalite. Polyhalite is the raw mineral that is some 1,600 meters below the ground. But once we actually beneficiate or process the material, we get the granules, as you can see in this photograph. And these are granules. It's exactly the same as the fertilizer that you may see either farmers putting on their crops or even people putting on their back gardens. What differentiates this from every other mineral or nutrient that is around the world, is that this actually contains 4 of the 6 macronutrients that all plant life requires to grow. As you can see, magnesium, potassium, calcium, and sulfur. And in fact, it's also very low in chlorine, which is a 5th added bonus. So we really are in a very interesting and exciting space where we are beginning to excite the market. We have 130 crop trials on the go at the moment, and that's ranging from potatoes, tea, coffee, beans, soya, and it really is showing great potential. So we know that when we start mining this mineral, we've got a secure market out there wanting to purchase this. Next slide. So this is really a schematic of what the mine looks like, and what you're seeing here is a project and a project build of circa £3.4 billion. So I'll talk to the left-hand side and we'll migrate across to the right, but on the left-hand side it shows you the depth of where the mineral is found, the polyhalite indicated in grey, and it ranges between 15 and 1600 meters underground, and where the mine is currently focusing on, the thickness of that polyhalite seam is up to some 70 meters. The first shaft, or the vertical line that you see on the left-hand side, is what we call our services shaft, and that's where basically the men and the material will physically go down. We will then mine the material. As you can see in the little schematic, there is a picture there of a machine mining its way, and that's called a continuous miner. And once that mines the material, that goes up the second of those vertical white lines, which is our second deep shaft, and that's called the production shaft. And that material gets loaded into bins or into skips. It gets hoisted, but not all the way to surface. It gets hoisted to where you see that parallel white line, and that's the tunnel that I spoke about earlier. From there, it gets loaded onto a conveyor belt, and it actually moves from the left-hand side to the right-hand side on a conveyor belt, which is again the tunnel that I mentioned earlier, some 37 kilometers long. And the diameter of that tunnel, as you can see in the picture, is about 5 to 5.5 meters in diameter. On the right-hand side is a schematic of the Wilton site at Teesside. The first little grey box there is where we will basically crush the material. We'll then stick it back together using water and a corn starch binder. We then turn it into those granules that I showed you on the previous slide called Poly 4. It goes into run-of-mine or stockpile domes, and then once the ships come, it gets taken across to all of the markets globally across the world. The intention is that, as per this picture that you see, we'll start producing at the back end of 2024. And by the end of 2028, we'll be at our first milestone of full production, which is 10 million tonnes. Though the capacity that we do have is between 13 and 15 million tonnes, and a conveyor belt is actually being designed for allow us to go up to almost 20 million tonnes. So as you can see, it's an exciting project. It has both surface operations at the Wilton end, and it obviously has the mining sitting at the Woodsmith part, some 1600 meters below surface. Next slide. So this is an artist's impression of what the mine will look like when we are in full production. And as you can see, there is no excavations, there's no winding towers, there's nothing. This is just the idyllic North York National Park that you'll drive past today. What we have got, and it's hard to probably see, but in the middle of the photograph is some farm or some farm shed-like buildings. That is the only buildings that we'll be leaving behind, and hidden below that is all of the workings, the shafts, the towers, the winding ropes. All of that sits underneath those farm buildings, and that's part of the permitting that we were given to be able to operate the mine, is to make sure that it looks like an operating farm and not a mine site. And the only other building that we leave behind is, you could probably see in the middle of the trees, there's a little brown set of offices there, and they're minimalistic offices just to make sure that we can safely run the operation. And just to again give you a little bit of feel of where we are, I think at the top left hand side you can just see Whitby Abbey there on the coastal line. So that's what it looks like some 4 to 6 years from now, but what does it look like today? So if we go to the next slide, and this shows you exactly where we are as of a couple of months ago. A typical construction site, car parks in the foreground, temporary offices in the middle, and you can just start to see perhaps in the middle of this photograph one of those temporary buildings which will be knocked down. That's, sorry, to the right-hand side, which shows you a typical mining kind of tower. But slightly to the left of that is we're just starting to build one of the first farm shed-like leave-behind buildings. And what sits underneath that is all of the windings and one of the shafts that goes currently about 200 to 250 meters below ground. Next slide. So before I was talking to you about the connection, or what connects the Woodsmith mine to the Teesside site, and it's the tunnel. So on the left-hand side of this slide, you can see that cylindrical shell, and that's what we call a tunnel boring machine. The actual blue cap end of that rotates, and as that rotates, the machine gets pushed forward, and it basically almost carves pieces of the earth away. That earth, or the dirt, falls through those holes, through the middle of the machine, onto a conveyor belt, and it goes all the way along the conveyor belt and actually daylights again at the Wilton, where we put it into bunding material. To the right-hand side, again, just shows you the connection between the two sites. To be able to do 37 kilometers, we'll be using 2 of these machines. The first machine was launched in April of last year, and as of this weekend, we've done 12,800 meters, which is getting on to be a world record. This is really, really going well, and the team are incredibly proud of our achievement with that. And then just on the bottom right-hand side, just gives you an indication of what inside the tunnel looks like. I mean, you can see it's perfectly round. The machine itself, the tunnel boring machine, moves on a rail, hence you can see the rail on the floor. The yellow cylinder on the roof is the ventilation ducting, so we actually suck air from surface and we push it right the way down the tunnel. And on just to the right-hand side of that yellow cylinder is actually our conveyor belt, and that's what's taking the muck away from the machine and bringing it all the way to surface. And it just gives you a great idea of the type of technology that we're using to actually bring this project to its fruition. Next slide. So this is the Teesside, this is Wilton, and what it looks like at the top. Again, hard to kind of show, but those that know the Teesside area, we're looking out towards where the old Tata steelworks are, and that is actually where our port facility will be. In the foreground is where our current offices are, and a series of offices and construction buildings that make the robotic mesh that goes inside some of the concrete rings, and it's those concrete rings that you saw on the previous photo that supports the ground as the tunnel boring machine continues to move forward. It's also this location, which is where all of the material, all of the muck comes out of currently, but that will be ore. And you can see to the left-hand side of those buildings, there's an empty construction site, and that's where we're starting to break ground now and build our processing facility. The artist's impression below that to the right-hand side gives you a great idea of scale of what the plant will look like when it's built. And again, we have to protect the polyhalite from the elements. We can't mix it with water, so everything is covered. So our stockpiles are covered. It's called a run-of-mine dome, and all our conveyor belts are also completely covered. And then the left-hand side, which looks like a bit like a picture of the Caribbean, is Teesside in final construction, and that's going to be our final loading and our ship loading facility. And at the moment we're still busy with contractors just ascertaining what type of the machinery we should get to be able to actually start building that, but building for that will happen at the back end of this year. Next slide, please. So just to give you a little impression of kind of what underground looks like, and maybe start from the bottom left hand side. I think many people when they hear underground they kind of go back to those Indiana Jones movies, and it's always rickety and things like that. But this is what a modern mine looks like. I mean, it's 12 meters wide. That's the size of the roadways that we're going to mine. It's 5.5 meters tall. Electric lights going throughout the entire mine, and that's indeed, you know, what we see our project as looking like. To give you an idea of some of the machinery that the successful incumbents will be working on, the yellow machine, or the orange machine above that is a continuous miner. To give you, it's an electrically driven machine. The piece at the top is almost like a drum. That drum rotates. And basically it is that rotating action when it's forced into the rock or into the polyhalite that basically mines the mineral. And that's got an instantaneous cutting rate of about 400 tons an hour. The material then falls to the ground, goes through the middle of the machine into a conveyance vehicle, onto conveyor belts, and as I showed before, up the shaft and onto that long conveyor belt to the Wilton port. But that's an electrically driven machine, weighs about 150 tons, 12.5 meters long, 4 meters wide. Just gives you a bit of an understanding of some of the machinery that we use underground. To the right-hand side is just a photograph. If we do go drill and blast as well, which is a possibility, that's just a modern 3-boom drilling rig. And we use that type of machinery across in other mines, whether it be in South America or down in Africa as well. And the last photograph on the right hand side is just the winder. When that's finished, that would have lots of rope wrapped around it, and that basically spins around, and that's what basically pulls either the skips up and down or takes the men and the material. Shouldn't use the men, the people and material up and down the shaft. Again, huge electrical installations. I think then final slide from my side is really what I'm excited about, and you know why I wanted to talk to you all tonight, because really I'm looking for the workforce of the future. I mean, you can see at the bottom of the slide, you know, some of the minimum qualifications that we're looking at and some of the ages, but really what we're looking for is good team players, people that are wanting to come and work hard, work a course in a safe manner, but really be a real team player. And that's all I would like to say is, for those people that are excited about what this looks like, please apply. You know, you will be part of this roadmap. You will be part of the journey of bringing what is a project into probably one of the best and the most technologically advanced mining operations in the world. So thank you very much, and I'm now going to hand across to John.
Thank you, Gareth. My name is John Cook. I'm the TT Operations Manager. I've been at TT for 15 years. I've been in engineering since I left school, which wasn't that long ago, but I've worked in engineering all my life. I was once an apprentice, so I understand the apprentice journey. And I'd just like to talk a little bit about TTE and maybe a little bit about the history and the current apprentices who are just going through now. And we'll go on the mine. Next slide, please. Okay, so as mentioned, TTE, based in South Bank on Teesside. We've got over 30 years of experience in apprenticeships, upskilling and international programs. TTE were acquired by Middlesbrough College, so we're now part of the Middlesbrough College Group, December 2019, and we continue to work independently as a TTE to maintain the brand and the industries that we've always supported. Next slide, please. So why TT? So our vision and mission, TT are UK's leading technical training company. As mentioned, we specialise in the industries, mechanical, electrical, petrochemical, welding, mining. We produce high quality apprenticeships and training which meets the needs of industries. We specifically tailor and target industries and produce apprentices or training towards what our company requires. We have fully equipped industrial engineering workshops. One of the big plus points, I guess, at TTE is those workshops. Huge workshops, used to the British Steel and ICI workshops back in the day, over 30 years ago now. Fully equipped with industrial standard equipment. One thing that we do really well at TTE is to install the health and safety and the aspects of what's required in the industry, and for young people to get that grasp before they actually go on the site, to keep them safe and give them all the competencies that's required per trade and per industry. Okay, we've been Ofsteded. We're a regular. We've got a regular grade good for Ofsted. We've never dropped below good. We strive to be outstanding, and we're very independent, but we produce a very high caliber of training and apprentice. The TTE offer a very good comprehensive welfare and pastoral support. We've always got a thing about offering young people as much support as we can. We cater for all needs for young people and give everybody an equal opportunity when they come into TTE. And we've also got a proven track record of preparing and developing these young people for future employment in all engineering industries. So living proof is the current apprenticeship group they're going through from Woodsmith at the moment, and you know you'll meet one or two of those apprentices very shortly. Next slide, please. So here, this slide just shows a few of the photographs of TTE as we currently stand. It's showing a few of the pictures of the workshops, a few of the areas that we have there. The workshop is a lot bigger than that, to be fair. It doesn't really do it justice. But as you can see in the slides that I'm showing you there, very industrial, very linked, and very how much industry works. We're a little bit different from everybody else, where we can give that knowledge and understanding and those practical skills that companies do require. All those staff at TTE have all come from industry, trade backgrounds. They've all become teachers and assessors. But the good thing about the TTE staff is the amount of experience in industry they have. It's good to pass on to young people and share their experiences where they've worked all over the world, and pass it on for young people to aspire to where they've got to, I guess. Next slide, please. So this slide just shows a few of the companies that TTE work with. One or two people might recognise a few of those logos, and some quite famous ones. You'll notice there's a lot of local industries on there. There's also a lot of international industries. One thing I thought to maybe mention with TTE is that not only do we operate in Teesside and around the UK, we also operate globally as well. So there's a lot of companies on there that you may recognise. There's one or two you may not recognise, but we've worked and consulted and produced a lot of training with a lot of those companies that you can see. Apprenticeships, full cost training, and consultancy for individual programs. Okay, next slide, please. So our apprentices, these are our 2019 apprentices. This is back in 2019, and all looking very happy in the TTE reception area there. These guys have been a credit. You know, they're coming to TTE. They were recruited pretty as much as we're doing now. Came in from school, freshman school and colleges. Quite green, I'll be quite honest, but now they come towards the end of the second year of the training in TTE. We're instilling the methods and what is required to go to site. These guys will go to site with Woodsmith, and we'll go out there in the summer when they will have qualified and got half their apprenticeship done. But by the time they go to site, we'll be confident they're going to do things safely, correctly, and competently. Next slide, please. So the delivery model. So the apprentices will follow a standard, a government standard maintenance and operations engineering and technician level 3 program. We call it MOIA. It's a standard that is suited to Woodsmith and to Anglo American. So the apprenticeship will provide knowledge and understanding of electrical, mechanical, instrumentation disciplines. So all apprentices, when recruiting, they come to TTE, we'll put them through a program, a knowledge program, a technical certificate. They'll also do multidiscipline trades. So they've got a very good experience in mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and instrumentation engineering. So by the time they finish the 2 years in centre, they'll have a good all-round balance of the 3 discipline trades. The diploma, the BTEC diploma, as I said, the BTEC, which will support the practical hands-on experience, is a level 3 BTEC full diploma. And again, this diploma is required for the standard that I mentioned at the top, the MOIA standard. It's part of the package that comes together with the support skills and the hands-on skills to become qualified to be an electrician, a mechanical fitter, an instrument tech, and whatever requirement is required by Anglo. Okay, just on the back of that delivery model, as we've been doing with the apprentices that you will meet very shortly, the group, 12 weekly reviews take place throughout the programme with trainers, with TTE, with mentors and the apprentices, just to check on the progression is being monitored and the adequate support is in place for everybody on the programme. Next slide, please. So I mentioned about the apprentice development coming in from the training centre from day one. And the main learning aim there, the BTEC National, which is the technical certificate required for the standard that the apprentices will work towards. Supported by the next part on the loop, the practical skills, the safety training and the assessment. So everything's assessed and accredited on the safety side and the practical training. And you can see just down there below, behaviours and attendance is always monitored. And again, we're preparing for the workplace, as we mentioned before, as Gareth briefly mentioned. So we're expecting apprentices to go into that workforce to be team players, but they need to have the correct behaviours, the correct skills. And again, on a standard, these are really now mapped into a standard, which is required for the qualification and to become qualified. So behaviours, what is required in the industry, what is required as an apprentice, what is required for somebody in the workplace, all monitored. And in the progress reviews, it'll be monitored every 12 weeks. Just moving further around, life skills. So that's very important in this day and age. You know, equality and diversity, British values, and the prevent policy. It's all monitored and it's all educated through the apprenticeship program as well. And finally, when we do get to site, the training continues on the 2 years on site with assessors who will come out regularly to visit the specific training plan in the mine. But at the end of all the training, and everything's been done in TT initially, to prove competence, we have an independent assessor goes out now, and we call it the endpoint assessment. So all apprentices will be asked to do an endpoint assessment to finally finish the piece of the jigsaw off to become fully qualified and to prove competence in the workplace. Again, fully supported by TTE and the mentors at the mine. Next slide, please. So I believe that's my slot over. And again, thank you for listening. I'm now going to introduce you to one of the apprentices that's currently on the programme, Hayley. So over to you, Hayley. Thank you.
Hi, so my name's Hayley Lovey. I'm 18. I'm in my second year of the Anglo Apprenticeship, and I joined Anglo right just straight out of school, so it came at the perfect time for me, as it was a hands-on approach to learning into the engineering industry, not just all coursework and writing, and that's how best I learn, which is good. It's a pay to learn apprenticeship too, so as you're learning, you're getting paid. In the application process, it consists of an online assessment and an interview day, in which this year it will most probably be all online. A typical working week is you take 5 days at TTE. On the Monday to the Wednesday, you work in the workshop, which you learn how to use the equipment and tools safely, which you will use on site. And on the Thursday and Friday, you'll be completing the coursework that will be there to complete your BTEC with. And in your first year, once a month, you'll be going onto site to see how the progress has been made throughout each month, which is absolutely amazing to see. You will not see it anywhere else. I hope in the future that I will have a strong career in this industry, especially with Anglo American, as they have amazing opportunities in other countries such as Australia and Chile and South Africa. It will be an amazing chance to experience that one day. You're also given mentors at the beginning of the apprenticeship, which they are there to help you along the process. If you have any questions about what's happening on site, or if you need any help at all at TTE as well, they will point you in the right direction. They're honestly amazing. The advice that I'd give for the applicants this year is to be yourself as you're applying, and just show how passionate you are, as it's a 4-year apprenticeship, so it's a long commitment, and the outcome is so rewarding. And honestly, I don't know where I'd be without it today. It's a once in a lifetime experience. And with that, I'll pass on to a fellow colleague, Owen Coles.
Cheers, Hayley. My name's Owen Coles. I'm also an apprentice. I'm 26. and heard about the apprenticeship through just word of mouth. Yeah, so as Hayley said, Monday to Wednesday is in the workshop, and a fantastic thing that TTE has, which it can offer, which a lot of places don't, is that the people you're learning from are from industry, and they've been in industry for years and years, so they can give you the insights that you're not going to get in school. So that's Monday to Wednesday, and Thursday to Friday you consolidate all that knowledge with your theory stuff from the BTEC. My days compared to Hayley's are longer because I live in Scarborough. There is a travel. We drive, like a few of us drive and pick people up and stuff. If you can't, that's not a worry. Travel is sorted. It was for us to start with. So that's not sort of a worry you have to have. My advice during the application process is to take your time with stuff. You know, take everything seriously. Think about what questions are asking you and stuff like that, but don't worry. None of the application process is there to sort of catch anyone out or really trick you. And then if you're successful and you get through, my advice is that this isn't school. This is training for a job, and you're being paid. So take any opportunity to learn anything extra. Take extra opportunities to practice as much as you can, because it's just going to sort of give you more advantage when you transition to site. Personally, being older, there were some challenges. From my previous job to start with, for the first year, I took a bit of a pay cut. It was tight, but it's doable, and it's an investment for my future. So absolutely, I think it's worth it. If you're older and you're sort of indecisive about whether to do it, I think you may as well. You know, this job and career has a lot of opportunity, especially with a large company like this. And with being the sort of second group, any challenges that our group have had to face, you're not going to, because we'll have learned from it and we'll have fixed any issues or sort of teething problems. Yeah, and absolutely, you know, it's been worth all of it. Things I'm looking forward to most is sort of how technologically advanced our mine is. Like, we're not, you know, no one's going down with pickaxes or anything like that. There's going to be some real high-end technology that's going to get employed into it. And the sort of central training facility and stuff that Anglo has, you know, they've been training people for a very long time, and they know what they're doing, and they've got some fantastic opportunities, you know, hopefully further down the line. So with that, I'll hand over to Katie, I believe.
Thanks, Owen. So my name's Katie Castleton. I work within the HR team in recruitment. So just to give you an overview of what that recruitment process looks like for this cohort of apprenticeships. So the first round is application form, and that is accessible via our website. That application form process closes on the 31st of March. And that is initially around checking your eligibility, mainly in terms of qualifications. There is no age limit to these apprenticeships. So as long as you are 16 or above on the 1st of September 2021, there is no upper age limit. The second stage to this process is, as Hayley mentioned previously, an online aptitude test. We've done this in testing centres previously, but given the current COVID restrictions, this is going to be online. The aptitude test looks at science, maths and some basic engineering aspects. And then those results and scores are given to ourselves, and then we'll take that on to a further process. So following on from that, there will be interviews and a recruitment assessment day in some form as well, which will yet to be decided, but that will take place May-June time this year, with offers being placed in the July, and offers for those that are coming out of school will be made provisional on expected and predicted grades, with there being an entry requirement for those. With commencement of employment come September. So we will likely do a keeping in touch day activity during those summer holidays, but you would then, for those successful candidates, start with us in September of this year. In terms of pay, for those that are wondering, so the first 2 years of your apprenticeship that John mentioned are full-time at college at TTE. So although you're not with us, you will do a monthly visit into us based on sites. And during that time, for the first year, we do pay a percentage above the national apprenticeship wage. Year 2, when you're still in college, you will go up to a percentage above the national minimum wage for your age group. And year 3, once you actually come into the organisation, that's when you will start to transition onto the Anglo salary banding scheme, and will progress from there through the years as your sort of experience and time with us progresses on. So I'll hand back over to Matt for any potential questions that you all may have.
Great, thanks, Katie. So we've published the questions that people have asked, and Katie covered 3 of those off during her presentation, and the 4th question from Ryan, someone from TTE will be in touch with you to answer your question. Now, I'll just leave it a second to see if anyone's got some last minute questions that I can't see. No, I can't see any, but if people do have any questions, then you can email us at cropnutrients.recruitment@angloamerican.com, and it just remains for me to say thank you for all the presenters. That was excellent, particularly you, Hayley and Owen, and thanks for coming. Have a good evening. Goodbye.